That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
Dumbledore now took out his wand and tapped 3 times upon the top of the casket. The lid creaked slowly open. Dumbledore reached inside it and pulled out a large, roughly hewn wooden cup. It would have been entirely unremarkable had it not been full to the brim with dancing blue-white flames. What's up, potheads? Welcome to the Restricted Section, a show in which a bunch of nerds with potty mouths reread the Harry Potter series for the umpteenth time and discuss the ways that the story and its themes have stayed with a generation into adulthood. Thank you for listening. If you haven't done the reading, don't worry, we did it for you. Here's what we're talking about this week. Chapter 16, The Goblet of Fire. Hogwarts, with also the students from Beauxbaton and Durmstrang, have a big feast. And afterward, Dumbledore brings out the Goblet of Fire and the Triwizard Tournament officially begins. The goblet gets set out in the entrance hall for people to put their names in. And the next day, Fred, George, and Lee Jordan dose themselves on aging potion, which of course does not trick the Goblet of Fire, and they're punished with long white beards. Harry, Ron, and Hermione spend the day at Hagrid's, and then they head up to the school for their second feast in as many days. This one is like a proper Halloween feast. After the feast, the Goblet of Fire delivers the names of the champions into Dumbledore's hands. Victor Crumb from Durmstrang, Fleur Delacour from Beauxbaton, Cedric Diggory from Hogwarts, and of course, Harry Potter as well. 1, 2, 3,
4, 5.
Great work, everyone.
I feel like I start 5 when Christina does, and I hold 5 until the last person is finished. I'm like, 5. 5,
Are we ready to get started?
Sure.
Hell fucking yeah. Let's do this.
Okay, I'm putting the microphone really close to my face because of my volume issues.
Why?
I'm going to monitor you closely. You're being monitored, Audacity. Don't have Audacity.
This call is being recorded for audio assurance and training purposes.
Honestly, consent is good, but she's kind of a narc, dude. Like, she really is like, I'm going to tell each and every one. I'm even going to remind you that I have my eyes on you, and this call is being fucking recorded.
This call is being recorded.
So you can't sue me when this ends up in some Krusty Krab training video.
Real talk, that is the greatest episode of all time.
It is the best episode of SpongeBob. No,
Let's watch it this weekend. Really.
Oh my god, yes.
my subscription of Paramount Plus is mostly because of Star Trek, but the very close second is I just watch reruns of SpongeBob all the time.
That's so funny. I didn't know it was on anything.
Paramount Plus has all SpongeBob, all of it. Only the first 4 or 5 seasons are actually any good, but it does have all of SpongeBob.
I think I got, like, the first 4 or 5 seasons on Amazon a while back, just so I have them.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have. It's good background. I mean, I know I subject Sean to a lot of Bob's Burgers. And you have to change it up sometimes. And SpongeBob is the only other show that I've ever felt like that about, you know?
Bob's Burgers is just like, it's like The Simpsons, but good. But, like, wholesome and good. Like...
Yeah, like, what if they all actually liked each other?
What if this family was actually, like, a family and liked each other and weren't always trying to strangle and abuse each other? Like, what that would have been.
I've said this once, I will say it again. My dream job is being the person that comes up with the burger of the day puns. Yeah. And the names of, like, the shops next door. Yeah. And just that and any other fantasy show ever.
I think they just have, like, a team of dads for that.
This is why you need to write down every single pun that ever comes to you.
I feel like saying, I want to be the burger of the day namer is like saying, I want to be the guy that comes up with the idea in the video game company. I just want to be the person that comes up with the idea.
That's the best job. You just let other people do the hard stuff.
Yeah, except the position doesn't exist. Like, no, there's no idea guy in a fucking game studio. Because every single person that makes games, spoilers, right. every single person that makes games, spoilers, has ideas for games. And they don't need an idea guy just to come up with ideas.
Is that anything like how every editor is an aspiring author?
I wish that, yeah.
Hey, ouch, I represent that remark.
Wait a minute, but Haley, I have a bunch of great ideas for books that you or Christina could write for me, and then we could split the profits because it's my idea, of course,
Sean,
that actually does happen in the publishing industry.
I'm not surprised.
Sean, once a month gets struck by, an incredibly good idea, and he, describes to me this whole plot of a book I need to write, and he's like, well, are you gonna write it? And I'm like, I wasn't taking notes. I'm not gonna write this book.
I was just along for this ride.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah, the SpongeBob clip where he's like, there's no time for notes. Or not SpongeBob, Steven Universe. Where he's like, there's no time for notes. I gotta go deliver this to my dad.
Well, everybody, welcome to the restricted section, because I'm sure I started the episode at least 5 minutes ago. Underage wizards need not apply unless they are very special boys.
Really? Are they very special boys with very special parents in a very special school?
Do they have a very unusual scar on their head, these boys?
So special.
I feel like I'm
such a special scar.
Well, today we're gonna do chapter 1 of this, and then I'm gonna wake up in a fever dream. Oh, I had a dream that I was on the first chapter of the Harry Potter book.
When I say I have work nightmares about the podcast, it's that every episode is the first chapter of the book.
Oh no. It's like the version of hell that we're all put in, from Coven and an American Horror Story. Tino's is just reliving the first episode over and over and over.
No, it's like that John Mulaney bit where it's 7 first chapters in a row and then 1 Quidditch chapter, and then it goes right back. And then it goes right back to
first chapter.
There's no Quidditch in this book, even.
I mean, they go to the World Cup though, don't they?
Yeah, they got it all in the first few chapters.
Yeah, there's no Harry Quidditch.
They're like, hey, what if we just put a big World Cup and then we just said fuck you to Quidditch for the rest of the book? What if that?
Yeah, indeed. That's the way to do it. Just get it all done in the front.
Welcome to Harry Potter Book 4 Squid Game, the Triwizard Tournament.
Listeners, you might recognize the voices of Haley, Zach, and Alex. This is the latest I've ever introduced anybody after we've already been chit-chatting for so long. But, hey, Haley, what's up?
The less said about how I've been doing, the better, quite frankly. I'm definitely under a curse.
Well, you're here now, and I'm super proud of you.
Thanks.
You're adulting so hard. We're so proud of you.
That's right.
It's the worst, and I hate it.
I did not consent to this. Yeah, Alex and Zach are from My Cabbages. You can catch them also on Prisoner of Azkaban Chapter 14, Snape's Grudge. You can also hear Zach's dulcet tones on our bonus episode about My Immortal, where I'm pretty much laughing, crying the entire time without stop.
Yeah.
How have y'all been since you were last on the pod?
I was really jealous when I was seeing everyone on social media and my feeds this past week posting their Spotify Wrapped, because I'm a basic bitch and use Amazon Music instead of Spotify. And I'm like, well, fuck, what did I even do this year? And then looking back, and it's like, holy shit, in 2021, we guest starred on this awesome podcast, and now we're on this awesome podcast network, and we're pod sibs. We've met in person. It's been a great year. So we've been up to a lot of things. We moved.
Yeah.
Which we talked about on an episode of Content and Capable, which you can also find on Movie Niker Network.
We wrapped season 2 of My Cabbages. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, you guys are on break. Yeah. You were on a break.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that clip.
Ross Geller.
It's like that clip from Billy Madison where he's like,
for the love of God, cherish it.
Well, before we get into this chapter, and there is a lot to talk about, we have a listener email, aka Owl Mail.
Adorable.
Yes, I'm super excited. This one's from Amy, whom, if this is the Amy I've spoken to before, is a longtime listener and friend of the pod. If not, hello, new listener named Amy and new friend of the pod. Amy says, hi, first of all, love the pod. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan and I love your take on the books, especially the 4th book, although I forgot how long it takes for anything to actually happen and how much filler there is between each subsequent happening. And
Slain.
People complain about Deathly Hallows, ...
Slain.
Yeah. I know, for a month this is me, Christina, interjecting, for a month I was like, am I burnt out on the podcast? Do I not enjoy Harry Potter anymore? But it was just the beginning of of the Goblet of Fire. Like, now that it's actioning, I'm like super into it
again. It's a bear.
Which even during this episode, which is the namesake of the book, it's like, it's just a series of unfortunate, awkward dinner parties.
I want to write that book series, and it's like a series of unfortunate events, but like more adult, you know?
Yeah.
That's a great, you need to write that down somewhere. Just hold on to it until you're ready. Amy goes on, just thought, I'd email my take on SPEW. Well, they put it in all capitals, so I'm going to say SPEW.
I have a lot to say about SPEW this chapter. Don't you worry about that.
I read an article somewhere where that bitch claimed Hermione was supposed to be right about SPEW. Her approach was just horrible. I can definitely see this. However, I also wish if that were the case, it had been portrayed that way. Yeah. I actually do think the books were going in that direction, but by the last few books, that bitch was in over her head and SPEW got dropped beyond Hermione having a few what the fuck moments and the emphasis on the house elves being abused. Like Dobby, that house elf that was sent to Azkaban in a flashback, and Creature. Great, but I would have liked to have learned that Hogwarts started paying the house elves, for example. Even reading the books as a teen, or maybe especially given that I was a bit like Hermione, I was annoyed with how the house elves were handled. Thanks again for the great podcast. Nice to have my weekly dose of nostalgia. Smiley face, stay warm, Amy. Amy, I will not stay warm. It was very cold outside today, but thank you so much for your well wishes.
You look pretty cozy right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you. I do have a hood completely on. If you like fur-lined hoods, just have long hair and then put a hood on.
There you go.
It's the easiest thing.
Same damn thing.
So yeah, this book was the first Harry Potter book that I read where I remember being like, oh, this is a big boy. Like, this book is thick. Like, Prisoner of Azkaban just feels like, oh, well, wow, this is a true novel. And then book 4...
It's a book-sized book.
Book 4 is like, what the fuck even is this? This is a cartoon of a book. This is like...
It's true.
It's a chonker.
Like, a cartoon character slaps this down when they, like...
An old tome.
Yeah.
I always use the Sorcerer's Stone, which is about 76,000 words, as an example of like a pretty standard, like regular fiction or YA fiction novel. Like, that's pretty much the standard length that like most books are. And then the Goblet of Fire is at least 3 times that. Just out of nowhere.
Did we ever figure out who her editor is? Like,
no.
Did that bitch
she didn't have put her name on it? Yeah, she had an editor, but you can only do so much, especially by book 4.
But can you imagine if, like, movie series, like, by the end of a movie series, like, it was just, oh, well, this is just my 5-hour conclusion to the movie series that I wrote. Like, if Marvel movies were like J.K. Rowling books, that bitch books. Like, the Avengers would be, like, 15 hours long, and you'd need to have 3 different, like, breaks in the middle of it.
That's just a TV show.
You're making prophecies at this point, because, like, a lot of like, book series, especially genre fiction, like fantasy and stuff, have done the thing of, like, yeah, there's however many books, but then the last one is split into 2 or into 3. I think Twilight might have done that, or at least did
Twilight
it with the movies.
Did it, The Hunger Games did it, Harry Potter did it. Okay, who did it first? I think it was Harry Potter, which I would argue, good move, and I think, like, Hunger Games did not need to do that.
Yeah.
Any of these other movies just straight up you don't need to do that.
The problem is most books don't have, like, a big climactic conclusion halfway through that it can then build the rest of the story off of. Like, movies have to go out of their way to find some way to end the book.
It's true. We did get slightly away from Amy's email about SPEW. I mean, SPEW. I definitely agree with you, Amy, that it's pretty clear that bitch got in over her head, and she was like, I'm social justice because I am, like, just pointing out a variety of things and doing nothing.
Yeah.
A lot of things of my own fabrication, you know?
But it's also, like, I was going to get into this later on in the chapter, and I probably still will, but I just think it's incredibly intellectually dishonest to be like, hey, I've invented a slave class that likes to be slaves. And there's
a lot of that in this chapter.
The rest of the book, the rest of the world I've constructed is going to do nothing but validate that fact about the world is like, it's not that like the ruling class thinks that the slaves like to be slaves. It's that, no, literally because I've written it that way, the slaves like to be slaves. And I'm like, that's not fair. That's not fair to do.
Yeah, I was also going to get into this a little later, but I was thinking about
Rip off that Band-Aid.
I mean, no, you don't want to see what's under these bandages. Listeners,
dear,
I've been having a hell of a
injured.
month. Yes, yeah, I am visibly injured. My index and thumb, my index finger and thumb are both ready to be interred under a pyramid. Anyway, I was thinking about the whole thing with the house elves, and I think kind of what happened, because Amy's absolutely right. Like, Hermione is correct, and she is going about this in, like, the white feminist way that is just, like, incorrect. But if you look at a lot of especially British literature, especially British literature for kids, like, before Harry Potter, like, the stuff that got really popular, like Roald Dahl and stuff, like, these are the influences that She Who Must Not Be Named was working from. And, like, all right, think of Roald Dahl, think of the Oompa Loompas. There was, like, a trope in a lot of, like, imperial British literature that lasted into the modern day of, like, the friendly foreigner or the kindly servant who likes being a servant. Like, it was, that was a very, very common trope, and it feels like when she first developed the house elves, she was kind of just going for an Oompa Loompa thing, and then the world, especially in this book, number 4, gets... like, the stakes get higher, and it gets a little more like, what are the adult implications of the silly nonsense from the first 3 books? And that's where, like, the house elf stuff kind of starts to fall apart, because it's like, no, this is actually horrifying. This shouldn't be glossed over, and then it just is.
Also, hashtag justice for the Oompa Loompas, because, like, come on, they're just
they all need to unionize.
They're just as oppressed as everything else.
Going along, though, with Haley's analysis that this is a pretty stereotypical white feminist take on these types of issues, reading a quote from back in the day in an interview when Dat Bitch was asked why bigotry was made a central part or theme, particularly in this book, she said, because bigotry is probably the thing I detest most. Etc. Oppressed groups are not, generally speaking, people who stand firmly together. No, sadly, they kind of subdivide among themselves and fight like hell. That's human nature, so that's what you see here. Whoa!
It has not aged well, Miss Rowling.
We don't have time to unpack all that.
Of that. Right. I feel like I
forgot the inflection of his delivery because I've only seen the meme. I only saw the stand-up version of it actually like many years ago.
Now, we don't have time to unpack all of that.
Oh, that was incredible, Zach.
Thank
well
you.
done.
Thank you very much.
That's like ringing a bell for sure. I'm going to start us off on the chapter if everyone's ready to talk about this chapter.
Please,
I'm
bring
ready.
it on.
Okay, so Beauxbaton and Durmstrang have just arrived in dramatic fashion, and we just learned that, like, oh, it's Victor Crumb.
The Victor Crumb?
Yeah, the Victor Crumb. He apparently is young enough to still be in school. It's a huge surprise to all.
I'm subscribed to his TikTok.
I'm trying to think of like a TikTok Quidditch pun.
Quidditch.
Clarice, that didn't work. That's not a Zip TikTok thing.
Oh my god. Yeah, Ron's like, I need to get his autograph, and everyone else is like, don't be a fucking idiot. Yeah. And then they go into the Great Hall for dinner.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I just have to say with Ron fangirling and simping so hard over Victor Crumb.
He's simping so hard.
It reminds me of the paparazzi articles that, like, plaster across the front of, like, Us Weekly, where it's like, look, celebrities at the grocery store in their pajamas. They're real people, too. Yes, Ron. He goes to school.
Like,
imagine that.
Victor Crumb is just like us. Today I learned that in Russia they have schools.
I think it's because you would expect a professional athlete to be, I think, an adult, right?
Yeah.
Especially one who's, like, he's clearly been playing long enough that he's, like, a big deal already. So, like, if he's maybe 18, 17, like, it sounds like he's about 18 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess maybe he's just, like, the new thing. Like, you know, I don't understand sports, I don't know anything about sports, but every year when, like, football...
You're doing great so far.
Yeah. Like when they're picking their new kids out of the football
draft.
college,
The draft.
that thing.
That's right.
I think so. Yeah, when they're doing the draft, there's always a few names that crop up. So maybe Crumb was like a big deal in the Quidditch draft.
The Bulgarian Quidditch draft.
You don't get a choice. You just get a letter in the mail, and you're just like, I'm sorry, honey. I have to go play for the Giants. I don't have a choice.
No, you have to flee. You can flee to Canada. It'll be okay.
I've been like really weirdly reading this is just not my style, but I've been reading like a historical fiction about the military. It's not like me, but it's like World War II, and they're talking about the draft at length, and I'm like, if I got drafted, I would move.
I would move to Canada,
I would never fight for this country in a million years.
Dude, not to completely sidetrack us, but at the bookstore I used to work in, there was an old lady who was like just an old school radical founding member of the Green Party, personally knew Ralph Nader, and her husband was a doctor, and she would tell stories about how he used to give people like fake disability things so that they could get out of the draft in Nam.
That's doing a real service.
Yeah. I remember the there was a moment in the Trump era where I was like, haha, fuck you, I aged out of the draft, suck my dick.
Yeah. Well, in all realness though, with sports, there's, depending on the sport, there are kids that are fielded from very young ages. Like in hockey, there are kids that will be taken out of high school as like age 14 or 15, and they will start practicing in these camps, and then they'll have like private tutors and shit, and yeah, it's
so Crumb is that times like just on the last edge of the Soviet Union intensity.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the Wizard Soviet Union was to Quidditch like Russia, like the actual Soviet Union was to like ballet.
Interesting. We don't have time to unpack all of that.
Anyway, so the chapter.
Beauxbaton tries to sit with Ravenclaw. No, they do. They succeed in sitting with Ravenclaw. And then Ron tries to be like, hey, Crumb and Durmstrang, come sit over here. But they go with Slytherin instead. Yeah. Which is so symbolic. It's like, what if all of them was evil too?
The guys who showed up on a spooky pirate ship?
What a foreshadow.
The Flying Dutchman?
Haley, I almost choked on my wine.
The food appears, and Ron thinks he's helping himself to a bit of black pudding, but it's actually a pumpkin pie from Marie Callender.
Oh my god, you're dating the episode.
I know.
I'll post a link to that in the show notes.
See, for me, I was thinking of Mean Girls and just how much drama surrounded my high school experience based upon who you sat with at the lunch table.
True.
And this just brought up a lot of unsettling, uncomfortable memories that I'm just going to continue to suppress.
Oh my god.
You can't sit with us! They're not wearing pink! It's Wednesday! Wow, it actually is Wednesday.
It's always Wednesday.
It becomes clear throughout this dinner that Harry and Ron are, like, weirdly horny. They're, like, every single, like, woman that walks by, they're like... they're like...
Well, Ron is, at the very least.
Yeah.
It's not cute. I think this is my favorite movie, so I've watched it a lot. So, like, this book more than the rest of them, it's, like, really hard for me to separate them sometimes. And, like, I just think about when, like, the Beauxbaton hoes are, like, rolling into the hall, and they're, like, the camera, like, does, like, an ass shot of, like, all of these minor girls in their little dresses. And it's, like, the weirdest... I'm like, why are we doing this right now?
If this was a Japanese anime, we would definitely have gotten a panty shot.
Oh, yes. For sure.
Yeah.
No, and like the movie also makes them like girl and boy only schools, Bobaton and Durmstrang. So, and like they are clearly co-ed in the books.
Oh, they are? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, there's like there are a couple of Bobaton's boys mentioned at the Yule Ball. There's definitely at least one girl in the Durmstrang contingent that's mentioned.
Now that I know that, I am 100% on Team Durmstrang.
Yeah, well, these two schools become personified by their champions because we don't get to meet any of the rest of them.
Yeah.
That's true.
And the headmistress of Bobaton is like a woman, and the headmaster of Durmstrang is a dude also. So those are the characters we get to meet from these respective schools, and it just genders the whole thing so much. Yeah. It's so frustrating.
It's like, man, I wish we could maybe... Oh, do we ever hear from any of these schools ever again? Like, ever again throughout the rest of the series? No, I don't think we do.
Yeah, I think we get to see Victor Crumb one more time.
Yeah, Hermione exchanges letters with Victor Crumb, and it causes a whole thing with Ron, but that's kind of it.
Jealousy is really attractive, Ron. Keep it up.
Do you remember in Moulin Rouge when it's like...
Jealousy! Yes, jealousy! Will drive you mad!
That's like all of Ron's character flaws.
See, when I was reading this book growing up, because I pretty much was sure like I was 1-to-1 or like a little bit like a year behind maybe of the age of the actual characters. So when this was the first book I think where Harry and Ron and like the male students actually started paying attention to the opposite gender, and girls. My entire life I had just been waiting for like boys to hit puberty and for my crush to even acknowledge me. So when I was reading these books I felt vindicated, and now looking back on it 15 years later I'm like, yeah, this is just really simpy and gross.
Yep, simpy and gross.
Simpy and gross. Ding!
Yep. Speaking of simpy and gross, just kidding. Dumbledore welcomes everyone and is like, welcome to the feast. Then they're like eating, they're feasting. A Bobaton girl comes over and asks if she can have the rest of their... Anyone?
Boilebaisse. My mom always said boilebaisse.
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 I'm
sure that's wrong, but boilebaisse.
It looks good enough, Haley. What did you say, Alex?
I said boilebaisse, but I think my
bubbies,
my B and my E's or my L's are mixed up.
Your Yeezys.
But I can't confirm that this dish is delicious, and
okay, well that's good.
It's like a seafood stew, and Ron just needs to get over it.
Yeah. Like, Ron is, like, hypnotized by this woman, and he can, like, barely speak to her, and when she leaves, he insists that she's Vila. I don't know if he, like, is like, I got the same kind of boner that I got when I saw the Vila at the Quidditch World Cup, or, like, why he's so
One time I saw a Bob Vila commercial, and I just popped a huge chub. Like, I just could not contain it. It was unreasonable.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila.
The way that Bob Vila put that table together, salacious.
What are you guys talking about? Who's Bob Vila?
You've never heard of Bob Vila? He's just like a handyman on like, you know, HGTV or whatever. I think he might do like you know, infomercials and stuff too.
Yeah, back in the day, he was like the real life Tim the Toolman Taylor, and like on the show Home Improvement, they actually got Bob Vila to come into a cameo.
These are the moments when I remember that Harry is very much the youngest of his friends. Because like, this is the age, man. This is the age where a couple months start making a difference. So I think Harry just is not as horny as Ron right now.
Yeah.
Harry's just like, oh, she's objective fact. She's physically attractive. Ron's sitting there like affected.
Ron is so emotional, and he is so bad at processing his emotions. Like, it's absolutely absurd.
He's like having Nom flashbacks.
Yeah, like the toxic masculinity runneth over.
So why is Harry unaffected?
'Cause he's in love with Draco.
I mean.
Yeah, it's true. It's 'cause he's gay, dude.
I mean,
honestly, I think Ron's a little confused. He was just as a fangirl over Victor as he was over this Bobaton chick.
But
so
have you ever seen the TV show An Idiot Abroad?
Oh no.
An Idiot Abroad is basically a show where, like, Ricky Gervais and his friend send this guy to, like, foreign countries, and he's just some, like, homebody, like, British guy who just hates, like, going to foreign places and stuff, and it all weirds him out very, very, like, in a very, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Ron is, like, the quintessential Idiot Abroad, like, with the way he reacts to all the food and stuff. He's like,
I see.
I don't get it. It's not bangers and mash, so I can't stand it.
There does seem to be, like, some kind of lampooning of British culture. Like, there's always a lot of lampooning of British culture in these books, but, like, the Hogwarts students' reactions to the foreign students is definitely, like, playing on that.
Yeah. Like,
they're being, like, really shitty.
And honestly, when how the Beauxbatons are so turned off by, like, the food, and I'm like, does that bitch just really hate French people? Like, does their school have gold bidets? Like, why are they so upset?
It's the France-UK thing.
Yeah, it's the France-UK thing. Like, yeah, she's gonna make fun of the Brit kids for being weirded out by the French and, I don't know, vaguely Eastern European kids, but she's not going to not take pot shots at the French.
Right.
That's just part of her civic duty as a British person.
Okay, so Bagman and Crouch roll up. They sit at the teacher's table. Apparently, they're going to be like judges in this thing, and they've been planning this whole thing, which
for months.
I can't get into. You wouldn't do this the same year as the Quidditch World Cup again, but I stand by my opinion that you would not do this the same year as the Quidditch World Cup. Dumbledore stands up to give a speech. He's like, "Here they are. Here I am. Here's the Goblet of Fire."
Ta-da!
Filch brings out a wooden chest.
A casket.
A casket. I'm so sorry.
It's like waiting for the body to just be pulled out of it.
He's like, it's the Goblet of Fireball. And Harry's like, oh, no thanks. I'm not really a cinnamon guy.
Give it to me!
Ooh, that's a good drink. Let's make that drink.
Yes!
Yeah, no, but really, going back to the two-person International Olympic Committee that took months to plan this event, clearly they have not met with any oracles. They're not using scrying or any magic to assist with this, because if they did, they would realize how much of a shit show Firefest was and how you try and organize an entire festival, let alone a international festival, in the span of a few months.
Right. Exactly.
I have so many questions about the Magical Olympics, but I will refrain.
That's something we could do a whole episode speculating about.
Like, does it rotate schools? Like, is it only hosted at Hogwarts? Like, why only 3 schools, all from Europe? Are there other magical schools? Like, a whole year? It took them a whole year,
why
but
don't
they
we
only
ever
have
hear
24 hours?
Why don't we ever hear about African wizards? Or, like, Asian wizards, even. That would be fun.
Where is Bob Costas?
I think in the chapter when they first... I was just on the chapter when they introduced the Triwizard Tournament, so I think it's just the 3 biggest schools in Europe.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which implies there are smaller ones.
And this is what I will never, ever, ever, I'm staring at the camera right now, ever...
It's very intense.
Forgive Fantastic Beasts 2 for, because I feel like we Fantastic Beasts could have been a series about the main character going to all these different places around the world, and we get to see all these different, like, places of the magical, like, what was it, Wizarding World. How interesting would that have been? And squandered.
How interesting.
Anyway, we'll never know.
Yeah, big fat anyway. Dumbledore whips it out.
Whoa, there are kids here, dude!
I don't remember that in the... Hold on, let me go back to the reading.
It's a goblet, it's full of fire. He's like, this is a judge. I don't know, man. This thing is gonna choose you, maybe. It's, like, so stupid.
Yeah.
It's, like, so stupid conceptually. Why is the book even named this? It should obviously be called...
The Triwizard Tournament.
The Triwizard Tournament. Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
But it's like, maybe, like, do you think that after the calling or whatever, like, the Goblet of Fire and the Sorting Hat, like, hang out, and they're just like, yeah, it sucks being sentient objects, doesn't it? It sure fucking does.
Oh my god.
I gotta make decisions for people. What the fuck is that bullshit?
I would like to know exactly how, and, like, this is gonna come up in the next chapter and be more relevant. I understand that, but This bothers me as an editor. The placing of your name in the goblet constitutes a binding magical contract. There can be no change of heart once you have become a champion. Please be very sure, therefore, that you are wholeheartedly prepared to play before you drop your name in the goblet. Now it's time for bed. No stakes, no consequences. It's binding. It's a binding magical contract. Okay, so what if I don't do it? It's binding. Do I explode? Do I die?
What if I get on the
bleed out?
train
It's binding.
and go back home right like tonight?
At no point does he try to see how binding it is.
It just bothers me.
You're gonna
I agree.
You're gonna get to see the real dungeon that they have at
So yeah, they basically explain that like you put your name in the goblet and then it's gonna choose whoever's the most worthy. You don't know me, goblet. Fuck you. Fuck you, goblet. You don't know me.
I haven't even met you before tonight.
Take me out on one date first. Jeez. Buy me a drink.
Right.
You have to include your social media handle on the paper so that the goblet has something to go off of. Because
No, it's just doing handwriting analysis. Yeah. This was back when that was legit.
That's right.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like super annoying to me that there are two goblets involved in this, like the Triwizard Cup and the Goblet of Fire. Like it seems so stupid. Like why would you have two goblets? Like just the one goblet is sufficient.
That never bothered me before,
good point, though.
Because I think they use a different word for the trophy, but also, like, if the trophy was the goblet, that would be so much cooler and also make the name of the book make more sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, no,
Consolidate.
You're right.
Consolidate.
Consolidate.
I just want to know, has anyone ever stolen this and tried to use it as like a giant pimp cup where they just are drinking out of it? Like, because that's what I would use this goblet for.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
The literal
Let's
Goblet
get
of
crunk
Fireball.
in here.
The Goblet of Fireball. I'm gonna get some custom Etsy merch after this. That giant goblet says Goblet of Fireball. So basically, students have 24 hours to enter this contest, and then after the Halloween feast the next day, because what day is it? It's October 3rd, 10th. The cup's gonna select its champions on Halloween tomorrow. I wish Halloween was tomorrow from today. Like that would be so nice.
If you had lined it up like that.
It would be my birthday again.
Okay.
Yes.
Real talk here. Why is this a book about witches and wizards at a wizarding school celebrating these bullshit Christianized holidays? Like, oh, yeah, we're witches and wizards, there's magic, but it's Halloween! Samhain? What's that? No!
That bitch loves to write about witches and wizards in name only.
Which is why it, boggles my mind when people back in the day were like, oh my god, if you read this book, your child's gonna become a witch and start worshipping Satan. And it's like, J.K. Rowling can't tell a witch from, like, her own asshole.
They're gonna start practicing Wicca, like, cut to Harry saying, Happy Christmas, Ron! Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
I mean, I think it just goes back to the fact that this is all supposed to be a satire of British culture. Because, like, British culture is kind of compulsory Christian, but, like, lazy about it. And I feel like that's kind of the same vibe with Wizards of, like, here are the holidays that we kind of tacked onto Christianity that have always existed in one form or another, and we're just gonna kind of do whatever, and we do this in christenings, and that's kind of it.
I would argue that's giving JK maybe a little too much credit, but that's fine.
No, I think it's lazy. I don't think it's necessarily deliberate, like something she thought through. I think she's just like, this is going to be a parody of British culture. Well, what characterizes British culture? Lazy Anglicans.
Yes, I was gonna say the Anglicans are so bullshit.
People will get this because my experience is universal, clearly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all of Europe is having this entire, like, Reformation, and Henry VIII is like, we're just gonna do our own thing. Thanks,
Don't get Christina started. Don't get Christina started on Henry VIII. Don't do it.
It's funny because, like, 5 minutes ago, I was like, should I bring up Henry VIII? Because he's relevant. And then I was like, don't bring him up. It's not the time or place to
If you're gonna bring him up, I'm gonna need another drink.
Can we do an entire bonus episode about Henry VIII, please?
Don't.
Yeah, we can.
It'll need to be a 3-parter.
Hey, I did a PowerPoint in under, it's supposed to be 5 minutes. I think I did it in under 15 minutes about Henry VIII and all my thoughts about his thoughts.
That was her restraining herself.
I'm so proud of you.
Moving briskly on. Okay, then feast over. Karkaroff is like, "You're Harry Potter," and he like stares at him.
And Harry's like, "Yes, I am."
And then Mad Eye Moody tries to get into a staring contest, and they're like, "Well, this isn't fair. You have a mechanic eye. None of us can compete with that. We're all gonna lose."
Do you think it's mechanical
or magical?
It definitely makes little like mechanical whirring noises in the movie.
Yeah, point being, like it's never gonna blink, so he's always gonna win that staring contest.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, whatever, they go to bed. The next day is Saturday, and it's Halloween. How fun. It's so fun when Halloween's on a Saturday.
Why do they have pumpkins, but, like, why don't they dress up? Like, is this I don't want
to talk about why they don't dress up. It makes me so sad.
I'm just like, is this, like, the ultimate lazy of the laziest
Guys,
British?
they're clearly all dressed up as witches and wizards. They're already in costume.
They're already in costume.
It's just an entire cosplay.
I don't see why this is so hard to understand.
This entire book series is just an entire LARP. That's it.
It's funny because Harry Potter cosplay is super underwhelming these days.
So this is like if this was a series, if we got like a Netflix original like Harry Potter reboot TV show, there'd be like a whole like several minute like montage of students trying to put their names in the goblet and with like goofy little gimmicks that they try to do to like get past the goblet.
Oh, that would be cute.
And like
someone walks in wearing like Groucho Marx glasses.
there's this part where like I wrote this down just because it struck me as like, that bitch, like, what are you doing? Where Hermione says, "Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you," said Hermione warningly. Warningly? That just feels really awkward and weird to me.
Here's the thing. People, like, writers say that adverbs are terrible, and they're not inherently, but when, like, there's no arguing that so much evil can be done with them.
Warningly.
The rule that I've heard with adverbs is that, like, you use them, they are best used in situations where, this is a piece of free writing advice for everybody. They're best used.
Charges.
They're best used in situations where, like, it's not obvious that something is being done like thatly. So, like, in this case, if Hermione is saying, "I wouldn't do that," Hermione said, like, that's a warning.
Yeah.
She's saying,
right.
Yeah. Whereas if it's like, if somebody's saying something super depressing, but like in an upbeat tone, then you need to put in like, "Hey, there's a different tone here than you would expect." That's where adverbs are best used.
What you're saying is adverbs are best used sparingly.
Sparingly. Yeah, sparingly. Exactly. I would highlight the shit out of that and be like, you don't have to tell us she's doing something warningly 1 second after she warns us. Sometimes I get a little cunty with my authors. I'm like, look at it.
After 100 pages, you get pissy.
I even wrote like, with caution, even like be a little more creative, I guess. I'm just
caution,
or just like a facial expression, or just like a facial expression, some body language.
That feel when you realize that the books that you loved as kids weren't as well written as you thought they were.
Well, yeah, because they were written for kids. You weren't discerning as a kid, so it didn't matter.
True.
I read discerningly. Need I remind you all of the My Immortal adverb demic? Flirtily, sensitively, keenly, sexily, resultantly, surprisedly, angrily. We got sexily again, seductively, suicidally. This sentence says, "I got up suicidally." Confusedly, indigoally. You know, like the Indigo Girls. Gothically. This one is quietly spelled Qwietly. Lots of sexilies. I just keep... There's 4 sexilies in this one paragraph. Voldemort and Hedwig started to make out sexily. For all this and more, please join our Patreon. to listen to our bonus episodes about My Immortal and other things. Some of the best dialogue tags of my life. I want to make like a photo compilation and be like, when we say that adverbs suck, this is what we mean.
When are we going to do parts 2, 3, and 4 of the My Immortal breakdown on the bonus episode?
I can't do it again. I'm not strong enough.
I could do like a separate podcast about My
Immortal. I will not have enough alcohol to get through even one more episode.
You would die of liver cirrhosis before you got through it.
Okay, guys, get it together. Everyone's up early. They're hanging around the Goblet of Fire in the entrance hall, and Durmstrang has already come through and put their names in because they're just go-getters. And then Fred, George, and Lee Jordan, Loki, my favorite character, Lee Jordan.
Yeah.
They roll up, and they have all just taken the slightest bit of aging potion, and they are fucking ecstatic and optimistic as fuck right now. For a split second, they're on top of the world. They're feeling 17.
They definitely did some drugs before, like, dropping them.
I know,
they dropped before they dropped their names in the goblet.
They're feeling great. And then, so Fred steps over the age line first, and like for a split second, it seems to have gone well. So George follows immediately, which I would not have made that same choice. No. I would have been like, I'm going to watch you walk all the way up there.
You know, in Squid Game, you don't jump on the glass right after someone else. You wait to see if it breaks. Like, that's all I'm saying.
Trauma. All the trauma. But then they both get like thrown out of the circle, and then they each grow a long white beard.
And you know, and then Dumbledore comes and compliments them after their tomfoolery and gives him a compliment. And you know what? If Dumbledore is giving you a compliment on your beard, you know that you're looking fly.
That man's got straight up beard game for sure.
It's true.
It's just so interesting to me that like not only is the goblet like sentient in the way that it can discern who is worthy and who is not, but it can also like antagonize people who try and fail to get their names in. Like
I don't know if it's the goblet or if it's because they didn't manage
Dumbledore.
to.
That's Dumbledore's
that's a Dumbledore fucking around with his students.
Yeah, you're right.
In the books, they like get thrown out of the aging circle, and then like everyone laughs at them, and then they're laughing too. In the movie, they instantly start fighting and wrestling and screaming at each other. What do you guys think of that? I'm always very curious when a movie chooses to do the exact opposite of what the book does. You know,
I think in the book it's a lot more wholesome. It's like, oh, all right, well, we tried, and oh well. I always like that kind of energy.
I don't know, because it's all about tropes, and what better a trope than two twin teenage, like, brothers roughhousing? I don't know.
It's just more visually interesting, I think. Like, this is definitely more wholesome, and I think more in character for them and for how they would react to Dumbledore getting them good. But, like, imagine if you saw it, like, visually in the movie. That would be hard to shoot in an interesting way of just, like, two people looking at each other and then laughing. Like, it would come off kind of corny.
See, I don't know about that. I feel like, you know, they look at each other, they chuckle, everyone else around them starts chuckling. End of scene. Yeah. Would have been fine.
They should be pointing at each other, laughing.
I just think that if this is the film was like the American approach to handling a problem, whereas the book is the British way, like, ha, good show, old boy.
Yeah. I just like have a hard time thinking that they fight like that.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't seem quite right to me. They're always pretty in sync. I don't think they're like a wrestling, like screaming kind of situation.
No. Not all! Like, they just throw on their...
They'd be going to Dumbledore and be like, yo, how did you do the beard thing? We gotta put that in like a candy bar or something for our Hogsmeade store.
Okay, so they go off to Madame Pomfrey, who's already removing some other beards. Don't even worry about it. They go to breakfast. The Great Hall's looking very sexy, all decked out for Halloween. Just regular breakfast. And then after breakfast, Beauxbaton puts their names in the goblet. And then our trio goes down to visit Hagrid, their first visit of the year, of term.
Mm-hmm. Well, before then, Hermione's like, oh, I can ask Hagrid to join Spew. And Ron is like, what's with her? And it's like, what the fuck, Ron? Like,
Yeah.
Ron's like, God, Hermione wanting to
SJW.
Yeah, Hermione wanting to get behind a social cause. Fucking cringe, am I right? And like puts on a pair of fucking sunglasses or something. So dumb.
I have like a vivid memory of when I was like 18. I was still talking to some guy I had always flirted with in high school, and we were just like talking sexy talk, and then I said something, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were an SJW," and I had to Google it because I was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, I see," and it was like a transformative moment in my life. I was like, "I don't need to talk to you anymore." Goodbye
but see,
forever.
it was like, I feel like, I mean, and you know, this is maybe getting a little too personal, but like when I was younger, there was definitely a period of time where I held fairly toxic opinions. And
didn't we all?
Of course. But like, I feel like reading book 4 and how Hermione was portrayed in her like social crusade, like validated those shitty fucking opinions that I had in a way that was like really, really detrimental to my growth. And it was like, oh, look at this silly girl trying to like, it's like, oh, it's like, no, like Hermione like genuinely cares about these people that make food for the fucking humans. They're people, by the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like, I don't know. It should have been a red flag then, right? Like,
yeah, what you write matters, especially if you're writing for children. People who produce media for children have such a great responsibility. Yeah. And frankly, I kind of say this a lot, like no offense to this entire podcast, but there are other fandoms on our network that are more valuable, I think. I think Percy Jackson and Avatar are two of like the best, like most wholesome fandoms you can be a part of.
Hey, maybe
Harry Potter is not where it's at.
Maybe subscribe to My Cabbages if you haven't yet.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, I could not recommend anything more, including Bob's Burgers, which we were talking about earlier this episode. Like, Avatar is the best. Whatever, we don't need to go there.
Okay.
It's just sometimes reading this, I just kind of like you were saying, Zach, I'm like, I feel like shit. There's just so much shit in here.
Yeah.
Like, no one's being good ever.
Yeah.
I do love this little interlude while they're waiting for Hermione, where the Beauxbaton students show up and Harry's just like, "Hey, Ron, it's your friend," just like ragging on his ragging on his best friend for having a boner for this hot girl.
The funny thing is, like, when you think about how the narrative is Harry, because it's like, oh, look, he said suddenly, and it's like Harry it just comes out of his mouth, you know?
Yeah.
He's just like, whoa.
Yeah. This may be backtracking a little bit, but like we were all confused teens, and you know what? Ron's working it out. But when he was so concerned about where people were sleeping, and it was like, wait, we can totally have Victor Crumb, like he can sleep in our bed, like I'll sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is so thirsty. That's the thirstiest shit of my life.
And I'm like, the one bed trope, and I could totally...
He's trying to manufacture the one bed trope. Yeah.
He already does it for, like, one famous wizard pretty regularly, so...
Crumb, you can share my bunk, okay? I'll be the little spoon. I'm not particular. I'll be the little spoon, I'll be the big spoon, whichever you want.
And maybe we can invite that that girl with the blonde hair who may or may not be Avila. You know, maybe possibly she would also be interested in getting in on
maybe this was established earlier in the book, and I haven't read it in many, many years, and I just read this chapter. But what is Avila?
Okay. They're, oh my god, I remember when they first came up in this book, I was like, wait, I have a book about this. And I pulled out my, like, fairy book, and I went to the Vila page, and it was like, it basically said, like, Vila, as seen in Harry Potter. And I was like, what? What? I think they're like sirens, but like less terrible and also land faring.
Gotcha.
Kind of harpies, kind of succubi.
Yeah, because they can go like ugly. They have ugly mad mode and happy sexy mode, as most women.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and like, and we had like a whole conversation about like, is it just men or like anyone who's attracted to women who like when they start dancing and like pretty music starts playing, they're just like immediately, I have to impress them, must breed.
Like the creatures in Sinbad, but not made out of water.
I refuse to believe that Haley would not fall victim to a Vila.
Oh, I would absolutely fall victim to a Vila. Are you kidding me?
Okay, we have to go boldly onto Hagrid's house.
Yeah.
And I say boldly because that suit is bold. He's wearing his terrible orange suit. He tried to comb and grease his hair, and it is in pigtails.
His beard is in pigtails.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
It says that the suit is hairy, and I'm like,
hairy?
Oh, it's a hairy suit.
I am very proud of Hagrid for trying to like get dressed up and in his own way be all impressed, and I think it's super cute that he has a crush, but I feel that as a caretaker for magical creatures, wearing a fur suit is just antithetical to your practices. Like, would Hagrid be a member of PETA?
Careful, or that bitch might portray you as silly and pedantic.
Here's something that Zach and Alex might not know about me. Do you know I worked at PETA for 1 week?
Wow.
Did you go and like throw blood on like someone's fur coat?
I got to do pretty cool stuff, like going and checking on dogs we were worried about, but it was a nightmare place. It was the worst place ever.
I'd say I'm a very, very big proponent of removing animal cruelty from the world, but I'm not PETA's biggest fan.
Yeah, they've done some weird stuff. I'm not sure if hairy here is supposed to refer to like it's a literal fur suit, or if it's just like the most ugly kind of tweed you can possibly imagine.
That's kind of the vision
because,
I got.
Like,
furry,
if you,
like frayed, maybe.
Like, not even frayed. I think it's just, like, the type of fabric. Because, like, if you've ever known someone who has actual giantism, like, is just too tall, like, to do any, like, to fit through doors and shit.
To be allowed, as the book describes him,
yeah,
too tall
pretty much.
Yeah.
No, like, there are people who are, like, 7-8 feet tall. And, like, finding clothes for them is apparently a huge challenge, so like maybe this is literally the best that Hagrid could find in his size.
Oh my god, Hagrid.
Poor boy.
Accessibility.
Somebody could magic it black for him though, so it's at least classy.
Yeah, it would be great if he had like anything else, but like I kind of feel like he can't afford to get something like custom made and also doesn't have taste.
And he didn't have a mom or like a family member.
You know who could afford to buy Hagrid a very dope suit? Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Harry Potter. Oh my god.
Or, maybe the dude who pays him, Dumbledore, who could give him enough money for a decent whatever.
You're right, Haley.
They're at his house. They're at his house.
Harry Potter, the book about the white boy who gets oppressed for the beginning of his life, and then Hagrid is like, psych, look, you're actually a privileged person, just like every other. Look at that, you have all this money.
My basic, when they're eating at Hagrid's house and they're having their second of 3 meals in this chapter, it's described as some type of beef casserole that then Hermione politely just discards because she finds a Talon. And I'm sorry, but with all of these magical creatures in this world, I have a really fucking hard time believing that wizarding folk are gonna eat cow. Especially ground cow. Beef?
But wait, hold on a second. Like, cows don't have talons.
I think that's the whole idea of, like, it was, like, described as a beef.
From?
Like, she was like, what is this? And
oh my god.
like, beef casserole.
Do you read, like, oh my god. That casserole is buckbeak.
Shut up.
It's not buckbeak, but whatever happened to those other hippogriffs, huh?
I'm just saying.
Where they at?
Where they at? That's good eating.
Where they at?
That's good eating.
Happy place.
Okay.
No,
all right.
Like,
we need to focus.
Yeah, because there's a big, there's a big human rights elephant in the room right here that we have to talk about.
When you said elephant, I literally was like, damn, he meant to say element for sure.
No, I definitely meant to say elephant.
You went on to say in the room, and I was like, oh no, elephant was
right. So basically, if I can take charge here for a brief second, the essentials of this conversation go: Hermione is like, oh, you should join Spew because, you know, the house elves are people and they deserve rights like anybody else. And Hagrid goes, oh, you silly girl. They like being slaves and they're good at it. And they like taking care of humans. And then Hermione's like, but what about Dobby? Dobby felt extremely oppressed and he was very, very vindicated when he was freed. And then Hagrid is like, oh, there's weirdos in every bunch. Like,
which is true, but that's not what's happening here.
Fuck me. Like, Hagrid, maybe Dobby isn't a weirdo for wanting basic rights. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And Hagrid frames it in such a way for Hermione. He says that trying to do this with the house elves would be an unkindness.
Like, it's crazy. It's fucking insane.
I'm pretty sure he describes them as, like, some type of weird breeds. Like...
Yeah, he says you get weirdos in every breed. And, like, it's especially crazy coming from Hagrid because, like, he's also marginalized in this society. Like, and we don't know that yet in the text, but, like, Hagrid has also dealt with a lot of shit, but also... and, like, here's the thing. It's infuriating, but it's also completely believable because... in a lot of marginalized groups, you do get, and like this is such a small community, you do get people who are like, I have found my place in the status quo where I'm safe, and therefore I'm just not going to rock the boat. And I think that's kind of Hagrid in this case, especially like Wizard Society, very, very small, very insular. If you are different, it is obvious. So like you try not to rock the boat as much as humanly possible. So like that's what Hagrid's doing here, because he's like, it would be very hard for them if everything changed immediately tomorrow. It would be extremely difficult. But like also, here's the thing. Hermione is still right.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy to me because it's like when I was a kid, I would have given anything to get a fucking letter to Hogwarts and go to be a wizard in wizarding school. And now, like, as an adult, I'm like, the wizarding world kind of fucking sucks.
Oh my god, it's like how at my work they don't recycle, and I'm like, I can't even support you guys.
Yeah, I've just decided that I'm glad I never got a letter to Hogwarts, because with as well coordinated and functioning as I am as an adult, there is no fucking way I would have survived till my 7th year. I would have never graduated. What is the dropout rate for Hogwarts? Like, for real?
Oh my god. Do you mean murder rate? Because kids be getting murdered out here.
Yeah. Well, we were watching, honestly, because we were building Lego sets a few days ago, and we were watching the first Harry Potter movie. And
you did Fox the Phoenix,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that
was amazing.
It's a great set, and its wings actually like undulate as it moves, and it's really organic. It's very cool.
Fox is doing the wave.
Like, the first Harry Potter book is like, Harry is just like main character syndrome all the way. It's like, I want to hear about just a regular wizard, how they go about their life in this world. It's like, I don't want to hear about Harry and how, every single time. It's like,
Zach, have you seen Puffs?
No, I haven't. I've heard.
You have to see Puffs. That's what you're asking.
I've heard it's good.
That's the entire premise of Puffs.
That's the premise of Puffs.
Guys, guess what? We're all wizards!
Like, Harry is like every other person that sits down for the Sorting Hat, they're all just, he's like, Slytherin, it's fine, Gryffindor, Hermione, or Hufflepuff. And then Harry sits down, and like the Sorting Hat has a fucking business interview with him. Like, nobody else got that.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, focus. Okay.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Hagrid is like, let's go up to the castle. I'll walk with you. I'll be your chaperone. Never fear, for I am here. And then he slaps a bunch of cologne on himself, and all the kids are like, that's too much. You're whatever this is, you're definitely doing too much. So he goes outside and he dunks his face in the water to rinse it off, and then he just completely abandons the children and walks off to Madame Maxime and the Beauxbaton students.
He ghosts them.
This has happened to me so many times. adults, friends, at every single point in my life. I don't think I've ever gone more than 6 months without this exact thing happening to me.
No.
Oh my god, that is incredibly funny. He fancies her, right? He thinks she's sexy. That's why he's trying to get all sexy with his suit and his eau de cologne. I don't know.
Is this the book with Rita Skeeter? Is she coming in this book?
Yeah, Rita Skeeter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically Sam, the journalist from Content and Capable, is coming on for Rita Skeeter chapter later down the road to talk about ethics in journalism, and I'm very excited.
Oh, that's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, Rita Skeeter. Someone in the last 2 episodes has pointed out to me that that's supposed to rhyme. I forget who it was, but that changed my world. Rita Skeeter. Obviously, it rhymes in British.
Yeah, it rhymes in British.
You say her name exactly the same way you say Peter Pettigrew.
Peter Pettigrew, yeah, exactly.
Rita Skeeter, Peter Pettigrew.
You need that on a t-shirt. I promise it rhymes in British.
Yo, that's real. When you're reading Shakespeare and stuff, you have to be okay, is this rhyming or not rhyming? Because otherwise it's kind of hard to read it.
Yeah, that also, there's a couple lines in my favorite poem of all time, The Ladies' Dressing Room by Jonathan Swift, where
I don't want to talk about it.
I do love Jonathan Swift.
It's great.
He proposed eating babies as a very sensible solution to poverty.
He was hilarious. Read the ladies' dressing room and then read an examination of what the fuck is going on in the ladies' dressing room, because it's hilarious.
For the listeners, poor Christina is just about to crawl under a rock right now.
I've subjected her to it so much. Anyway, so the Goblet of Fire.
I just want to tell people though, it's a very good poem if you're okay with just absolute filth.
It's so good.
I feel like Haley is a sadist right now. It's just how can I cause the most discomfort in Christina?
It's my favorite thing to share with new friends.
If you can't take me at my worst, you can't have me at my best. Her worst is this Jonathan Swift poem, and her best is quippy Lord of the Rings discourse.
Yeah,
Alex, you gave me too much wine.
This is Haley's litmus test for friends. If you can't handle this, then get the fuck out.
If you can't handle me at my Jonathan Swift, you don't deserve me at my John Ronald Royal Tolkien.
Haley and I are friends because of a passing Lord of the Rings remark.
I have never, literally in my whole life, heard J.R.R. Tolkien's full name, so thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
John Rolkin Tolkien.
Jerry Randall Tolkien.
No, I like John Rolkin Tolkien way better. That's what it's...
I just want to be his mother.
You guys need to look up Jonathan Swift, The Ladies' Dressing Room, and then Hobbit Milk on YouTube.
Okay, all these things are linked in the show notes. I'm moving us briskly on.
Please.
They go up to the castle for the Halloween feast. They're feasting.
Nobody's in costume.
They just feasted yesterday.
It's bullshit.
Nobody's in costume. It's absolutely nonsense. They're just eating, and then it's time. It's almost time because Dumbledore's I estimate that the goblet requires 1 more minute.
Yeah, it's
was it exactly? Is there a timer? Because Lee's checking his watch through this whole thing. Is it exactly 24 hours?
Dumbledore's texting the goblet. He's you up? And the goblet's I need a minute.
Yo, I'm downstairs.
Can we talk about how why they get only 24 hours to get up? I need to, if there's this mysterious, unbreakable contract, I need to contact my lawyer, I need to do all these things before I put my name in that goblet. Meanwhile, we have a whole fucking school year to go through these 3 events.
But it's
why?
One thing that I thought was really funny was question that I had about this whole situation is what the fuck did the other kids of the competing schools do during the school year? Do they just hang out? What? And
I know. No, it's so stupid.
And instead of answering that question, that bitch was just hey, what if I just had Harry and Ron be hey, what do the other kids do during the thing? Oh, I don't know. Do they just hang out? Or the exact question I had, Ron asks and Harry just or Harry asks and Ron just shrugs. It's
yeah.
Well, all right. I guess because you lampshaded it, it's okay. Every racist joke in TV ever. If you lampshade it, it's fine. Don't even worry about it.
Yes. I think that Harry Potter's, as a series, its take on general, like, social justice or, like, anything is, like, the lampshade thing that you've mentioned. Yeah. It's just like, there it is.
Or it's like
and moving on.
It's like in Big Bang Theory when one of the characters says a really sexist joke, and then the punchline is one of the other characters says, "Wow, that's really sexist." It's like, that doesn't make it okay. It's like, you didn't
just
get away with
it. Just don't say it. Oh my god. Don't manifest it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Be more creative. Be better.
Be better.
Be a better writer.
So, the Goblet of Fire. Guys, it's happening. The Goblet of Fire.
I'm like SpongeBob eating his own hands in that episode.
Yes.
It's like the lights from, like, we're in the hot seat on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and, like, the music comes down.
Oh my god, Sam had someone on Content and Capable who writes questions for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
That is maybe another one of my dream jobs.
That is such a cool job. I meant to text you, Haley, because I'm like, trivia writer. That has Haley written all over it. Anyway, go listen to Content and Capable. The last several episodes have been excellent. Okay, the Goblet of Fire. The flames turn from blue to red to indicate that its body is ready. It shoots out pieces of parchment, like for the champions it chooses. Okay, Victor Crumb is the Durmstrang champion. Obviously, he's the only one that you've named.
Yeah,
he's gonna be the one.
Nobody else has ever been referenced. Like, they're all just faceless drones.
There's the kid who dribbled food down his front. There's him.
That kid.
He wanted a drink.
What if they were just like, and the wizard for so and so is Steve. We're just like,
Steve. That's my dad's name. Good old Steve.
That Steve was our drug dealer.
Steve sold us marijuana.
Drug dealer Steve. We've all been there. So anyway, the Goblet of Fire. Okay, it's like Fleur Delacour, the Beauxbaton champion. So now Ron's like, I know the name of that bitch I've been drooling over.
Oh yeah.
Fleur Delacour.
I was like leaving spicy, sarcastic comments for myself when I was taking notes about this several weeks ago, and now I don't feel the same. You know, I'm like, I don't need to read it like that. That's got a lot of attitude in it.
Fleur Delacour. It sounds like a fancy liquor.
No, listen, okay, Mike, I work at a remodeling company, and a lot of my colleagues, their previous job was floor and decor. And every time they say that, I'm like, that's from Harry Potter. That's that bitch from Harry Potter. Like, it's like a compulsion. Fleur and decor. I'm like, Fleur Delacour. Okay, and then Cedric Diggory is the Hogwarts champion. Okay, great. And so everyone's really happy and they applaud. And then they go to sleep. And yeah, Ron's not happy. They all go to bed and then they go to sleep and then everything's fine.
Can we talk about, though, how they were the one person they were rooting for, Angelina Johnson?
I was rooting for Angelina, too, for a split second.
Yes, I am totally team Angelina. However, this is the first time in my memory that I'm reading this book where they actually, like, that bitch describes a student as being a student of color, and they're the one that they want to sacrifice to the Triwizard Tournament. I'm like,
oh my god.
In hindsight, not sure this is, like, a good look.
I would love a totally different version of this book written by an author of color where Angelina Johnson gets selected as the Hogwarts champion. I think that could be so much better of a story because I trust the hell out of that bitch. She's an excellent low-key character this entire book series. Okay, well, obviously wait, because that's not all. The Goblet of Fire turns red again. It spits out another piece of parchment.
Oh, shit.
Dumbledore, here's the thing. I would not have read this out loud.
Yeah.
Like, if I were Dumbledore, I never would have been like, Harry Potter, the kid with all the trauma, bring him up.
Yeah,
bring him out. Get him up here.
Bring him out.
I would have looked at that piece of paper. I would have been like, and that's all, folks. And I would have put it in my pocket. Yeah. We're shutting this down. We're going to figure this out later. This is not like an everyone problem.
Yeah.
But Tina, binding magical
That's
contract.
Right. That's right.
Don't come at me with that. Doesn't make any fucking sense. They don't even. Here's the thing. Like, okay, blood magic or like an unforgivable curse. Like, it's no, not unforgivable curse. What's the unbreakable vow. Those kinds of things I consider to be like blood magic, right? But like this shit is not blood magic, especially if Harry Potter did not put his name in himself. It's just like,
yeah, the contract is
reason.
The contract is null and void if Harry did not consent to being a fucking Triwizard contestant.
Nope, it's binding. It's binding. It just needs to be his name. It's binding. It's just binding.
He's too young. He's extra. Like, it makes no sense.
Binding magical contract.
It's just okay. It's
binding.
Okay, but if we
he's obligated. He's obligated now.
If we skip ahead a little bit, like, we know that the whole reason that Harry's name came out of the goblet is because the Triwizard Cup is a portkey, and like it's like this is the most cockamamie, like backwards, like intricate plan to just get Harry in front of Voldemort. Like, there are easier fucking ways to do this. You could kidnap him and put a fucking bag over his head and take him to Voldemort yourself. Like, like, why is this elaborate plan? It's like, oh, well, Harry, what if
they set up this whole Rube Goldberg machine to get
like, what if Harry in the first challenge just got bodied by the dragon? What if that happened? Like, what?
This happened, Zach, because wizards, be they good or evil, be their intentions pure or not, are all about the drama. That's it. This is just about the drama.
Are you a good witch or a bad witch?
They're all playing like Milton Bradley's Mousetrap. They're all just like, oh, in order to catch this mouse, we gotta set up this whole fucking Rube Goldberg machine. Real talk, nobody ever actually played Mousetrap, right? Y'all just set up the thing and then set it off. Nobody ever played Mousetrap.
I can't deal with something so, like, finicky and, like, complex. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We had actual mousetraps in my house.
And my parents kept every single thing that I probably breathed on from my childhood, and they're like, here is every game you ever owned, and here's the story behind it, how your great-grandmother who passed away on this date in February bought your...
I'm 30 years old.
She's like, do you want this copy?
Let it go.
She's like, do you want this copy of Mousetrap? And I'm like, how much is it worth? And she's like, well, if you're gonna sell it, then I won't give it to you. And I'm like, well, fine. And it can take up space in your fucking basement.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, parents care so much about material possessions. That's something I've learned in my life.
Yes. And they give me so much shit for, like, all the things I keep on. And I'm like, the only thing that I've held on to besides are clothing and books. I own more books than any other object, and those actually hold value.
So, for those of the podcast that don't know, I am a freelance artist. I do it professionally as a visual artist person. And my mother has kept every single shred of art that she has come into contact with of mine.
Oh, no.
And I have thrown out dozens and dozens of my own pieces because I just wanted to make room for stuff, and I just don't care. This is a piece I made in college. It doesn't look good anymore. I don't care. But my mother cares.
But
That's very sweet.
This was from your blue period. Like, oh
my God.
It's gonna be in an art museum someday.
Nope.
Speaking of parents, I have to tell you guys that my dad just texted me a meme, and it said, this is my dad, my father. Just got my Ancestry.com results back, and then it's a box of assorted crackers.
I've never met your dad, and I love him.
When he did 23andMe several years ago, and he discovered his long-lost father. It's a very cool story. But when he was reading, he was like, oh my God, we're like this % Scottish, this % British, this % like Norwegian. I'm like,
100%
I get it. Yeah, like I really don't need to hear the list. White people soup.
Oh my God. If you titled your episodes the way we do, White People Soup would be a great name for this episode.
Honestly, I'm like jealous of the way you guys label your episodes, but I'm literally too lawful to like do something like that. Like I'm like, people need to see what the episode's about. Yeah. Like, this is the name of it. Anyway, are you guys ready to move on to plugs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I would love to start real quick by plugging our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can become part of our Discord server where me, Zach, Alex, and Haley all hang out all the time. It's an incredibly fun place to be.
It is.
And at the $5 tier, you can get our bonus episodes. And this month's bonus episode came out last Saturday, and it was all about the Hogwarts School of Prayer and Miracles, which is A very funny Christian fanfic.
I'm going to go listen to it after we're done recording because I'm so excited.
It's very funny. If you have any kind of religious trauma, don't go there. But like if you have a good humor about the whole thing, then check it out.
I just had an entire mental breakdown yesterday talking to Zach about my past religious trauma. So I will not be listening to that episode.
Don't listen to it. Zach can give you the summary.
Yeah.
Zach and or Alex, can you just remind everyone what My Cabbages is about if this is the first time they're hearing about it?
Yeah, My Cabbages is a podcast about Avatar: The Last Airbender where Alex and I make dumb jokes and occasionally go into very introspective deep dives on Avatar: The Last Airbender. We go episode by episode, cracking jokes.
There's some D&D flair, and like the reading back through the Harry Potter series, realizing, damn, how did these kids function with all the trauma they experienced? Well, we talk about the same thing sometimes on our show, so that's your stick.
Much trauma for these child protagonists.
Season 2 had some pretty big guests. Season 1 is pretty strong too, so just start at the beginning and hang out, and it's great. We also have a Patreon, and maybe go support that. Who knows?
Yeah, and you can find us on our socials on Twitter at CabbageCast, or are we doing socials later?
Yeah, no, hit it.
We're at CabbageCast, and you can email us at Gmail. It's mycabbagecast@gmail.com is our email.
You guys are doing great.
Thanks so much. Again, too much wine. This was too much wine.
No, I've also had too much wine. It's fine.
Fine. You're whining about wine, and you know what? That's the last time you get hand-delivered room service with wine in a turvis.
Babe, please keep bringing me wine. I love you.
I brought a bottle up here.
Tina, you have that exact energy, and I love you forever.
Thank you.
Yeah, how about some personal plugs?
Yeah, Alex, what have you been reading, listening to, watching, playing recently that has been vibing with you?
Well, one of the things, I would share music I've been listening to, but just like I complained earlier, how I'm a basic bitch in Amazon Music, the universe is conspiring against me. So not only was I having a terrible day yesterday, but Amazon Music, an Amazon web service, decided to have a entire outage in the area of Virginia. So I just couldn't listen to music all day yesterday.
I'm so sorry.
And I wanted to bang my head against a wall. So books that I've been reading, I just finished a lovely short book that I would describe as a gothic fantasy mystery. It is called All the Murmuring Bones by A.J. Slatter. It was released just this past year and is about this wonderful girl who lives in a very depressing world that is fantasy based but very reminiscent of Victorian Ireland. There's a lot of Celtic folklore and mer people, and it's a Moida mystery. So if you're looking for a really short, quick read with some very interesting takes on some Celtic folklore, it's pretty feminist driven, and
nice.
I was into it, so highly recommend. And my only caveat is it's dark, so if you're looking for something to cheer you up or make you feel better about yourself, this book is probably not that.
Yeah, if that's the case, just message me. I've been reading some cute stuff recently.
Aww.
Zach, what have you been watching, reading, listening to, playing recently that you think our listeners would vibe with?
This isn't very hard for me. I'm going to plug a game that I've just become obsessed with called Opus Magnum. It's not exactly a particularly new game, but it's a few years old at this point. And is a Zachtronics game, which I swear it has nothing to do with my namesake. I'm not involved in it in any way. But Zachtronics is a company that makes they make puzzle games that are also automation / sort of almost like programming games. Essentially what Opus Magnum is you are an alchemist doing mechanized alchemy, and you have all of these mechanical arms that you can program to construct a molecule. You have all these little base parts that you're given, and you have to produce a molecule. And you have to program all of the different arms to construct this thing, and deposit it at a certain location. And that's very abstract and very hard to conceptualize in an audio format, but just look up the trailer for Opus Magnum, and
it's linked in the show notes.
If you look at it and you're not immediately like, well, this is too much, then maybe give it a try, because I've become completely addicted to it and I love it.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much. Haley, I'm not going to ask you for your Twitter. You know why? Because people, if they need to know, they'll know. And it's linked in the show notes forever.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for sparing me.
I'm not saying my socials anymore personally. I'm sick of it. You know where to find me. Haley, what have you, however, been watching, reading, listening, playing to, etc., vibing with lately?
For asking. I am going to plug kind of two things, kind of one thing. I am going to plug The Wheel of Time. There's
really?
There's a series coming out.
The Prime series?
Yeah, there's a series on Prime. It's based on a book series that I read in like middle and high school. The Wheel of Time is why everyone is so mad at George R.R. Martin and telling him to write faster, because the author of Wheel of Time, it's like a 12-book series, and then he died after writing book 11, and Brandon Sanderson had to finish it.
Oh my God, what? Yeah. I did not know that.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
But Brandon Sanderson's pretty talented. Did he do a good job?
Brandon Sanderson's pretty great, but everyone was like pissed at this dude for like, you mother, like on the last book, are you fucking kidding?
Yeah.
Anyway, I might still be mad from 8th grade. But the TV series, I've been watching it. There's like 5 episodes. It'll be 6 when this airs. It has made some changes. I don't agree with all of them, but I understand all of them, and I like most of them. The book series Wheel of Time is kind of like if Game of Thrones wasn't trying so hard not to be a fantasy series and like trying to be so grim and like gritty and realistic. Wheel of Time is just like, this is a stupid Lord of the Rings ripoff with just like way too many characters and like way too much world building.
That's my favorite genre.
Yep.
That's
it's so doofy and fun. It is not trying to be anything other than what it is. Basically, the whole premise is, what if instead of Gandalf being the inciting dude to like get you to go on an adventure, it was fucking Galadriel, and she was terrifying the entire time. That's kind of the vibe. The show has streamlined things quite a bit. It's also done that thing where anytime they make a movie or series based on a fantasy series where people are like, why can't you just literally have people of color in it? It did that. Like, it just doesn't matter. And also, it's taken a lot of kind of gender essentialist-y things from the books and done away with them as much as is possible in the mechanics of the world. So I'm thoroughly enjoying the TV series. I'd say it's kind of on the same level production value and writing wise as The Witcher. Like if you enjoyed The Witcher, you might enjoy this, but like it's less grimdark and more fun.
You know what?
Wheel of Time.
I've been seeing a lot of adverts for this, and I'm gonna check it out. We actually just embarked on a new journey, which is we're rewatching Once Upon a Time. Oh
my God,
big, dumb,
I love
fluffy
that show.
Fun. Big, dumb, fluffy fun.
No, it's so stupid and amazing.
I know. I love it. And it turns out I've consumed more of media than Zach has of this thing, so...
Yeah,
I'm taking advantage of
I fell off the horse. A bonus shout out to Dune. If you haven't seen Dune yet, it's quite good. Watch it.
Tina!
Yeah, indeed. Well, you know, I'm Christina. You know where to find me. And what I'm going to recommend to all of our readers this week is The Gods of Jade and Shadow, which is our, what month is it? December?
December.
Yes, December book month, book selection on the Movie Night Crew Network. Adele, our friend Adele, is leading us this month. And it's, Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. It's just like a very delightful historical Mexican fantasy romp.
Interesting.
It's very lovely. It was like a lovely time. I enjoyed every second of it. So that's that. Haley, thank you as always for being my dependable co-pilot.
Hey.
Zach, Alex, thank you for joining us. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you for being just such a wonderful host, both in person and virtually.
And happy to be here, as always, to like talk cool stuff about Harry Potter and shit on that bitch.
Yeah, break it down. Alright, gang, I gotta go finish reading How to Dupe Old Mystical Cups before this book magically binds me to a contest I did not enter. Bye.
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 The Restricted Section is thrilled to be a member of the Movie Night Crew podcast network, which features amazing other podcasts such as My Cabbages, an Avatar podcast. My Cabbages is an Avatar The Last Airbender podcast that was started by two lovable nerds during a global pandemic to stave off their inevitable existential crisis.
Coffee, tea, honor, cabbage. Long ago, the four elements lived in harmony. Then, shit went totally cray when the Avatar attacked. Only the Cabbage Man, merchant of fine cruciferous vegetables, could stand against his trolling. But when the world needed some dank veg, he vanished. 10 years have passed, and my partner and I have started a new podcast.
My Cabbages! An Avatar podcast.
A weekly show about Avatar The Last Airbender. Whether it's Sokka's new line of cologne...
Hey, look at you, sitting there on a seal. Well, now look back at me. I'm on an even bigger seal. Now look away.
D&D related antics.
You have to make an acrobatics check for that, and Aang just, like, unzips his pants and whips out his D20s. He's just like, I got this.
Or randomly breaking into song.
Go bending waterfall.
We'll stumble our way through the greatest show ever made, one episode at a time.
You can reach us at CabbageCast, which is our Twitter, or
subscribe wherever you catch pod.
Rotten cabbages? What kind of slum do you think this is?
The Restricted Section was created by me, Christina Kahn, based on the book series by J.K. Rowling. All music by Ryan Kahn. Logo by Michael Hardison. Support us on patreon.com/restricted section. For as little as $1 a month, you can gain access to our Discord community server, which is a really happy place to be. And there are other rewards as well, such as bonus episodes and Zoom happy hour hangouts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Restricted Section Pod, on Twitter at Restricted Pod, and on Facebook at Restricted Section Pod. Also, feel free to shoot us an email at restrictedsectionpod@gmail.com to share your thoughts, feelings, complaints, conspiracy theories, or even lavish praise.
Oh, this is a big boy. Like, this book is thick.
That movie sucked. I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.